Good evening and welcome to Sunday Express. Tonight we explore the constitutional amendment debate that is before the National Assembly, and domiciled right now are the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee for debate later in the plenary. We explore the options and what each every side is saying. Welcome to Sunday Express.
Also on Sunday Express, we're going to be having a conversation around menstrual health, moving this conversation from a gender issue to a societal issue.
Absolutely, that conversation coming up later. For now, let's have a look at the highlights.
We have to change the financial system. It is not fit for purpose. It is unjust. It is not accountable. We are paying an arm and a leg. We are paying 100 times more than our compatriots in the global north.
President William Ruto calls for a re-evaluation of interest rates by international lending institutions in loans acquired by African countries for development. Azimio postpones and reschedules its weekly People's Baraza as Wiper accuses Kenya Kwanza of political cannibalization. And meet ChatGPT, a revolutionary digital assistant. Is it a threat to human labor? This in today's feature.
Lensa Odingo is a sign language interpreter. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Welcome to the broadcast.
Good evening, I'm Regina, Manyara.
Now, President William Ruto has called for the re-evaluation of interest rates by international lending institutions on loans acquired by the African continent for development.
Now, speaking on the sidelines of the 36th Africa Heads of State Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the president noted that development loans were expensive for Africans, calling upon reconsideration of the same to spur development across the continent.
Speaking on the sidelines of the 36th African Head of State Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, President Ruto said the government is working on reorganizing this year's budget to cushion about 6 million people who are affected by severe drought. The president saying his government has spent more than 30 billion shillings feeding and accessing food for livestock, as well as water tracking.
We are going to reorganize our budget some more because the situation is not getting better. The situation is getting worse. So we are reassigning resources meant for development, resources meant for schools, resources meant for hospitals, to feed people, to feed livestock. And this year, we are going to have the 5th consecutive year of failed rains. The phenomenon is not getting better, it's getting worse.
Further, the president also appealed to the international lending institutions to reevaluate the interest on loans acquired by the African continent. President Ruto said that the adjustment was necessary to ensure financial setup was fair to all.
We are paying 100 times more than our compatriots in the global north. And that is why we are saying we need to redesign. We need a new system that understands, that is accountable, that makes those who have brought us here to the climate crisis that we have, the emitters, the polluters, they need to be held to account, so that an accountable system that doesn't punish the least polluters and doesn't reward the most, those who pollute the most, a system that works for everybody. And we are not asking for any favors. We are not asking for a system that favors us. We are asking for a system that is even.
At the same time, the head of state called for fairness in addressing matters climate change, saying the African continent has been affected more, despite making a very little contribution to the climate change. The president also reaffirmed Kenya's commitment in stabilizing the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Kenya is the only country that has deployed in DRC. It was agreed that 5 countries deploy. Only Kenya has deployed. We are waiting, and we have agreed that by end of this month, all the other countries will deploy. We have agreed on a metrics of deployment. We have agreed on a course of action. We have agreed that this military intervention is going to be in parallel with the political engagement of the combatants on the ground, M23, and all the other fighting forces, so that we can give ourselves the best opportunity to succeed.
For Sunday Express, I'm Gladys Mongai.
And some of the outcomes of the 36th Africa Heads of State Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, is that Kenya is going to be playing host to the Climate Change Summit in September this year.
Absolutely. Let's move this now to politics, where the Wiper Democratic Movement is now accusing the Kenya Kwanza administration of rocking divisions within the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya alliance.
However, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka says that the party was fully behind the ongoing Azimio la Umoja One Kenya People's Baraza.
In the wake of the perceived fallout in the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya alliance, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka now accuses the Kenya Kwanza government of political cannibalization.
The executive has made many attempts to divide the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. They have openly used public institutions and public resources to entice individual members, quote unquote, in the name of development, to break ranks with their political parties.
Kalonzo challenged the ruling party to fulfill its campaign pledges, among them easing the cost of living among Kenyans.
Today, the Mamamboga cannot pay rent. The Boda Boda can barely fuel their motorbikes. Our farmers have maize rotting in silos. Yet this government is hell-bent on feeding Kenyans with GMOs. The average mwananchi is being overtaxed and overburdened. Unemployment is on the rise.
The Wiper leader supporting the ongoing Kenya People's Barazas that are meant to push the government to address the rising cost of living.
We, the leaders of the Wiper Democratic Movement, want to emphasize that we will not allow this country to retrogress to the dark days of the one-party state. Despite all their efforts, we remain united and indeed intact.
This comes as Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance postponed the Mombasa rally that had been scheduled for Saturday to a later date. In a statement to the newsroom, the coalition will instead hold the meeting in Kakamega County on the same date. The coalition also announced that it will hold a People's Baraza meeting in Kitale Town, Trans Nzoia County on Sunday.
Now a showdown is looming in Parliament this coming week when the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee begins to look at a memorandum seeking constitutional changes proposed by President William Ruto.
While legislators loyal to the Azimio coalition have indicated by all means that they will oppose the memorandum, the Kenya Kwanza colleagues are keen in using their numerical strength to push the proposals past the standing committee and on the floor of the House for debate and passage. In a memorandum dated December 9th, 2022, addressed to the speakers of both houses of Parliament, President William Ruto proposed an amendment of a constitution enacted in 2010. The president wanted a relook into Chapter 9 of a constitution to create the office of official leader of opposition, an amendment to establish a formula that will guide the computation of the gender ratio in the National Assembly, the entrenchment of a National Government Constituency Development Fund, and the amendment of standing orders to allow cabinet secretaries participate directly in parliamentary proceedings. On Wednesday, the National Assembly began debate on the proposals before they were referred to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, with Azimio-affiliated leaders showing no signs of let-up they would oppose the constitutional changes.
Of the 4 issues that have been raised in the President's memorandum, 3 issues would expressly require referendum. Only one relating to the funds, especially CDF funds and the Oversight Fund, would not require referendum under Article 255(3).
Instead of writing memorandums to us, these are issues we can deal with. We can sit down as a country and agree that we want to go the route of constitutional amendment to introduce the official leader of opposition, to introduce cabinet secretary to come to parliament and become members of parliament instead of passing through the back door and escape routes.
Kenya Kwanza legislators have, however, dismissed the misgivings by their colleagues in Azimio, accusing them of reading too much and nothing.
This is not about testing water. These are issues that, according to the public, they are issues which are extremely important for the public good, and therefore must come out with somebody.
To imagine that executive operates differently from parliament, we cannot have a government or a country that is so disjointed. At some point, there must be order.
The MPs claim the constitutional changes being sought by the president will aid the smooth operation of parliament and structure the opposition formally.
Opposition has to operate from a position of law, so that we do not have the prerogative of the harlot. Power without responsibility. And when you're given an opposition position, because there are people who voted for you, you are expected to behave in a certain way.
This country does not require people to go on the street to do demonstrations. What it requires is structured opposition, an opposition that understands that they are part of this country, that they have to contribute in whatever manner in a constitutional way.
We have so many rulings that have been challenging the CDF. But if you look at the CDF, to our society, to our people, to the Kenyan population, everybody is looking and praying that we continue to keep on CDF because it's supporting our people. But constitutionally, there are issues that has been raised about it.
With 30 members of the Jubilee Party having pledged closer working relations with the Kenya Kwanza regime, and 9 MPs from the opposition party ODM also being seen as warming up to President Ruto, the Kenya Kwanza MPs are keen on using their numerical strength to push the changes through.
I believe myself that even the suggestion of having the cabinet to come and answer questions on the floor of the House is something that we must continuously discuss.
The issue of gender rule is extremely critical because anybody can go to court and now start having problem with the parliament.
Is most welcome. And we shall support it in Parliament. And this is not about government and opposition. This is everybody who is here is going to support. Everybody who's in Parliament is in support of it, because we all want gender parity to be achieved. It is the Constitution that says that.
And of course, a showdown, you can expect it in the coming, because the matter has already been referred to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. It will be quite interesting to see how the debate pans out.
And we'll be there on hand to bring you the coverage.
Absolutely.
Now, 10 people were injured in a clash between rival boda operators during a rally by Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition at the Gusii Stadium.
According to Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital Head of Emergency Services, Dr. Marita Oimeke, 2 of them sustained mild to moderate brain injuries, while others were attended to medically and discharged.
These were scenes witnessed over the weekend in Kisii town after 2 rival motorcycle gangs clashed over the Azimio rally in the town. The group engaged each other with stones, and at the end, 10 people were injured and attended to at the Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. 3 are critically injured.
Out of the 10, 7 had injuries which were able to be treated and allowed home. 3 were fairly critical and had to be admitted.
The victims interviewed claimed the attackers had boasted of protection from influential individuals.
Walikuwa nasema wakisema ati hawatambui serikali ya kaunti,
wakiwa na mafimbo na panga wakaanza kututwanga tu, wanatutwanga wakisema hawataki kuona watu wote wa gavana hapa, na wakifanya kitu yoyote, hata kama watavunja hizo makio wachome, hakuna pali wanaweza pelekwa, wao serikali iko nyuma yao.
Before the chaos erupted, one of the leaders whose demonstration had been licensed, Fred Onunda, had addressed the media claiming that they had decided to defy Governor Simba Arati's advisory against holding the protest.
Na wewe uwezi kutuconvince yale maneno tunataka kufanya, ati tusahau tuanza kukimbisha Raila. Kazi yetu ni kukimbisha wewe.
Kisii Governor Simba Arati, who visited those injured at the hospital, read malice in the whole scenario.
It's unfortunate that we can witness this, and I'm reliably informed, that the gang which was attacking people with pangas and rungus were guarded by the police officers.
He called on the security apparatus to crack the whip on armed gangs which are slowly regrouping to cause chaos and destabilize his economic agenda for Kisii. Joan Junge for Sunday Express.
Well, it's that time for us to take a first breather on Sunday Express. But of course, coming up, Regina,
we're going to be putting matters of menstrual health into perspective, moving the conversation from a gender issue to a societal issue. Do keep it right here.
Well, of course.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2,000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
Enjoy a selection of the best. Regina Ray and Tingazi.
Bado hujamwambia unamlike. Umerealize jamwachilia mkono kutoka nikuje hapa.
Love blossoms in Mexico with the trio sisters in Las Bandidas.
I beg you, please don't go.
I want you to be the happiest man in the world with a woman who appreciates and respects you.
An array of music rave.
Make me lie when I don't want to.
Blues.
You are my everything.
2 local gems. And we sit to chat with the Diambo.
You know, I can't even tell whether you're looking at me, seeing me.
With the Louis Vuitton.
Classic comedy.
Makono tu. Mashabiki. Say that
again. Enjoy the Divas programming this February only on KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Tena tu ore matope bila kuangalia na kuchuriza ako wapi. Nini mbaya na wewe?
Okay, unajua ni vile uelewi ile kitu inatendeka.
Oi. Nguvu za giza zilimharibu. Na nilijua hii maneno yote ilikuwa imepangwa. Mama uangamizi. Chokonia wacha ngwerese na usike vizuri. Unajua si ati tuwachui, mnataka kuharibia hoteli Siva. Wewe mwenyewe ukichangalia hata mwili yako. Mara ya mwisho ulikunywa dawa ya minyoni lini? Mama Kayai! Pokea uponyaji. Enkai, mama Kayai. Muponyeshe, hii pande isikana na hii pande. System yake yote ya mwili irudi vile nataka kuwa.
Hebu niondoke. Mimi shika njia uende zako.
Good evening, you're watching Sunday Express. Now, patients with broken limbs at the Thika Level 5 hospital are calling for government intervention following complaints of being held at the facility for months, awaiting for non-existent bone plates. Now, the affected patients claim that despite paying for the bone plates months ago, the facility has been hesitant to explain how soon they will be attended to. This comes amidst claims that the supplier had cut off the supply to the county due to accrued arrears.
A visit to Thika Level 5 Hospital revealed a sorry state of affairs, with broken limbs patients lying hopelessly on their beds. We engaged Sospita Kamotho, a patient who broke his leg 3 times and has a disjointed arm after he was involved in a motorcycle accident on January 16th this year, and narrates to us that he has been on pain medication, patiently waiting for the bone plates, which he claims to have paid through the hospital.
Hakuna tuseme matibabu yetu nimekuwa nikipokea isipokuwa kuoshwa kidonda. Ofisi na daktari chuma zilikuwa zimelipwa, lakini hospitali inasema hakuna chuma. So tunakaa hivyo tu tukigoja tu tuone kama pengine wataleta.
The situation is not different with Peter Karanja, another patient who says that since December last year, when he was admitted at the facility with assurance that the shipment has been placed, it has been almost 2 months with nothing forthcoming.
Tuliambiwa hakuna shuma, kuna procurement, kuna dealer ambaye wana supply. Walisema hajalipo.
Watu serikali tutuletea chuma huku. Itakuwa imefanya kitu ya maana sana, juu bado tunaumia watu wengi sana.
The issue has prompted the intervention of Thika Residents Lobby Group led by their chairman Paul Jomo, who termed the situation as shameful.
Kujeni muwasaidie watoke hapo na mkuje muwatetee, ndio maana mlichaguliwa. Na tunajua kazi yenu hiyo ndio jukumu lenu, mfanye kazi ile inawasaidi.
Sasa nyinyi na amelipa na mnamuitisha pesa amelipa. Pesa zake zilienda wapi? Na chuma amelipa. Anaambiwa siko kwa meli. Kwani meli inamaliza miezi gapi?
This comes barely days after Thika Member of Parliament Alice Nganga gave a 5-day ultimatum to Governor Wamatangi to address the mess at the facility or face mass protest. Opicho Chemtai for Sunday Express.
Now, Food and Agriculture Organization FAO has pledged to partner with the government in supporting the country's food basket through its involvement in reforming food and agricultural policies. FAO Director General Chu Dongyu noted the initiative aims to scale up fast action measures by integrating nutritious foods production and distribution systems benefiting the country and large, medium and small scale farmers. This even as he lauded the government for being at the forefront of advocating for environmental conservation. Dongyu, who is on a 3-day visit to the country since his election to the position in 2019, was speaking in Karura Forest, where he launched 2 long-range drones that will be used in the surveillance of forests. He was accompanied by Kenya Forest Service boss Julius Kamau and FAO representatives.
So let's walk the talk and use all the technology we can, use all the knowledge, including indigenous knowledge, and also let's implement the enabling policy together. Adaptation, evolution is the only solution we can do to deal with the change which is unpredictable.
Because as Kenya Forest Service, we cannot work alone. We work together with forest adjacent communities and all other partners of goodwill as we go forth. A green space in a city, and not only Karura and other green spaces, we as a service has committed to ensure that they are strongly protected and preserved.
Now, faith-based hospitals are contemplating the government's efforts in fighting cancer, among other chronic ailments. Early screening and detection have been hailed as game changers in managing such diseases. In a bid to bring services closer to the people, hospitals are investing in state-of-the-art equipment, hence reducing the time and resources used to seek such services.
As part of efforts to supplement the government efforts in achieving universal health coverage, the Nairobi Adventist Hospital has launched state-of-the-art CT scan and C-arm equipment. The equipment is part of the efforts to bring services closer to the people and offers early screening for easier management of diseases.
Kuna wagonjwa wengi ambao wanaweza wakapatwa na magonjwa kama hayo ambayo gharama zake kutibu ni za juu sana. Na Sisi kama kanisa kila wakati tunawafikiria wagonjwa wetu. Saratani nayo it's not an easy disease to manage. Lakini pia hata sasa hivi huduma za kuishughulikia ziko hapa.
We have been referring those patients to other facilities, for care, and it's quite inconveniencing for our patients when you have to refer them to another facility when we could offer those services here. We will be able to offer more advanced services in the fields of image-guided biopsies and interventional radiology services.
Kenya is currently battling with the increase in cancer burden, exerting strain on populations and health systems. Reluctance to early cancer screening has been termed one of the leading causes of late detection and increased mortality among Kenyans. Nancy Okware, Sunday Express.
Sustained tree planting and efforts aimed at ecosystem restoration are needed in order to maintain the hydrological cycle needed for the maintenance of geothermal resources. A lecturer in the Department of Geology at the University of Nairobi, Dr. Edwin Dinde, wants that environmental degradation could see the steam that provides geothermal energy dry up.
Geothermal resources are heavily dependent on sustainable underground water recharge, hence the need to ensure that the catchment areas are forested and conserved. A senior lecturer in the Department of Geology in the Faculty of Science and Technology at the University of Nairobi, Dr. Edwin Dindi says that the Rift Valley presents a great opportunity for the development of geothermal resources, but this can only be sustainable if environmental conservation is maintained.
The shoulders of the rift went up, so that means there's a lot of rain, and that water goes into the Rift Valley and reaches these hot rocks and is converted into steam, which you are using to generate power.
He noted that other opportunities available along the Rift Valley system are the volcanic soils that provide fertile soils for agricultural production.
But we are very, very lucky to be on the plate boundary and on this plate boundary, because if it was not for that, we would not be having this rich volcanic soils. It is the initiation of this formation of this breaking which resulted in volcanic rocks which give us very fertile soils, very nice climate in the highlands.
Now, residents of Iwotoka village in Manyara North in Embu County have a reason to smile after being connected to the national power grid for the first time since Kenya's independence in 1963. Manyara North Member of Parliament Geoffrey Ruko says the village, which is part of the 400 other villages, will still need the Rural Electrification Authority to install a further 500 transformers within the last mile project and also reduce the connection cost to 40,000 for homesteads.
For these villagers, this is a sight to behold. A spectacle many have only heard tales of. Electricity. Residents thanking the government for finally bringing power closer to them.
Tangu mimi nilisaliwa si kuona stima hapa, na sasa tunaona kitu ya muhimu sana kupata stima hapa.
Sasa watoto wetu watakuwa wakisoma vizuri kwa sababu hapo mbeleni wakuwa wanasoma, hata umwaka hakuna.
Nimesaliwa hapa kama miaka sasa tuseme 47 sasa years, na tuseme ya kwamba mpaka saa hii mahali hapa ama maeneo haya hakukuwa kumewekwa stima.
Echoing these sentiments, local leaders plan to amend legislation that will enable funding and anchoring of last mile power projects to the most remote areas of Kenya.
I have made a request both to Kenya Power and to Rural Electrification Authority on the behalf of the people of Manyara North. And they have developed a very long list of all the villages with their application, with the location and the name of the village, as well as with the coordinates of where the transformer, those 500, over 500 transformers which we need, where they should be located.
During the installation of an electricity transformer unit at Iwotoka village, it also emerged that despite being in close proximity with power generating Seven Forks Dam, many households were still lagging behind in development.
So I think before the end of 1 year or 2 years, the people of this constituency will be enjoying what they have been missing.
Currently, Kenya Power says it has increased presence in the counties by connecting 418,935, out of which 260,551 were connected under the Last Mile Connectivity Project.
Of course, before we bring in Karen Kibet with the sports, the use of artificial intelligence in the tech world has revolutionized human interaction with machines. If AI doesn't scare you, then ChatGPT, the latest invention by a US tech firm, Shield. In this special feature, our reporter Trevor Ngendo explores the chatbot, which has caught the world by storm since its launch late last year, focusing on its threat to replace human beings at workplaces, its impact on education, and its limitations.
Until late last year, Apple's Siri, Google Now, Amazon's Alexa, and Microsoft's Cortana were the most common digital assistants helping users to perform diverse tasks. This sphere was, however, upset by the arrival of the Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, commonly referred to as ChatGPT. Created by OpenAI, a firm based in the United States, ChatGPT is a chatbot capable of generating human-like text based on input received, or simply question and answer style involving human dialogue between you and the AI. It allows you to ask it pretty much anything you want. Let me show you how it works. Here, I'll tell ChatGPT to draw a week-long gym meal plan, putting all entries in a table. Impressive, it did just that. I'll tell ChatGPT to respond to a complaint via email from one of our viewers in Kinangop, Manyara County, who is experiencing some technical hitches on our frequency. Let's see. In just 10 seconds, it did just that. Excellent. On programming, I want to tell ChatGPT to create a one-page website in JavaScript for my car sales company. And the results are impressive. AI specialists say digital assistants such as ChatGPT tend to make work easy and save time. I caught up with Humphrey Muchuma, the founder and managing director of Inua AI Solutions in Nairobi, to hear his opinion.
Well, AI, we are told, is supposed to basically augment and enhance, human intelligence. And that's what it's geared for. We're not looking at humans being replaced. But what you're going to see in the near future will be some kind of a symbiotic kind of relationship between machines and humans.
To see its impact on education, I copied a question from a previous exam paper and pasted it into ChatGPT. The chatbot accurately gave the right answer. So, are institutions of higher learning ready for this? Fred Ogola, a professor at Strathmore Business School, says cheating in examinations could increase and force institutions to spend more in curbing the vice.
The universities, just like any other sector, could be ill prepared to deal with this because there's a possibility for you to be able to cheat using it. But of course, there is what is called AI detector. The AI detector, if you take a thesis written either a PhD student or a master's student, you can put that in the AI detector to detect for you the percentage of the AI content in your thesis, and that can be able to moderate or mediate the cheating in universities.
Ogola further opines that change is inevitable, and thus institutions will have to restructure to be able to adapt to emerging technologies.
So you go and do master's, PhD in robotics to know how to work with robots. So there'll be faculty teaching on AI. So they will not be teaching anymore, just teaching normal ways that writing thesis. You'll be teaching how to write thesis using AI. So in the university now we have a lecture called a lecturer in research methods. So they'll be called research methods in AI, not research methods in Google. So things will just change, but their needs will still be served.
Besides the excitement in the possibilities these AI breakthroughs provide, they have, however, caused fears of job losses as major firms have started laying off their staff. Its impact has been felt in jobs such as the creative industry, script writing, programming, transcribing, digital marketing, among others. with advanced models expected to cause even more impact.
Lawyers, right now, in the US, some of them are actually using it. It can read police reports, and it's able to actually tell from the testimonials if there's any kind of contradictions in the testimonials.
So, is ChatGPT coming for your job?
These lecturers have to transform and become something else. A lecturer used to be the only one with a textbook. There was no Google. But nowadays, when they say factors affecting production, students are Googling you. So lecturers are never the ones who are first to hand to knowledge. So nowadays, you go to class not to teach. Nowadays, I go to class to moderate.
We're going to need human touch in all aspects, whether it's the creative industry. I talked about job displacement, yes, but we'll still need the human touch. The human touch aspect is critical. Machines right now are not advanced to take over the humans.
As it currently stands, ChatGPT is free to use, but it's expected to start charging soon. Its major limitation, however, is the fact that it has no ability to browse the internet and get the latest information, but rather relies solely on the 2021 data it was trained on. In the US, New York City was the first to ban the use of ChatGPT, terming it an artificial intelligence-assisted cheating, a trend that has also seen top universities in France, India, among others, ban its use, citing plagiarism. ChatGPT rivals include Baidu's Ani and the recently released Bard by Google, with more tech firms currently working on the future of AI chatbots. Listen, ChatGPT is not capable of providing definitive answers to all questions. However, it's about time to think beyond its limitations. Even though some jobs could be replaced by AI, it's obvious that its development will definitely create new job opportunities that did not previously exist. So this is the future, and the future is now. Welcome to the future. Trevor Ngendo for KBC Channel 1, Nairobi.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
Enjoy a selection of the best. Regina Ray and Team Gazi.
Bado hujamwambia unamlike. Mrealize jambo achilia mkono kutoka nikuje hapa.
Love blossoms in Mexico with the Trier sisters in Las Bandidas.
I beg you, please don't go.
I want you to be the happiest man in the world with a woman who appreciates and respects you.
An array of music rave.
Make me lie when I don't want to.
Blues.
You are my everything.
2 local jams. And we sit to chat with the Diambo.
I can't even tell whether you're looking at me, seeing me, with the Louis Vuitton.
Classic comedy.
Makono tu. Mashabiki.
Say that again.
Enjoy the Divas programming this February only on KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Wanaitana tu ale matope bila kuangalia na kujiuliza ako wapi. Nini maana wewe?
Okay, unajua ni vile uelewi ile kitu inatendeka.
Oi. Nguvu za giza zilimharibu. Na nilijua hii maneno yote ilikuwa imepangwa. Mama uangamizi. Chokonia wacha ngwerese na usike vizuri. Unajua si ati tuwachui mnataka kuharibia hoteli Siva. Wewe mwenyewe ukichangalia hata mwili yako. Mara ya mwisho ulikunywa dawa ya minyoni lini? Mama kaya pokea hopo nyaji. Enkai, mama yana, mama kaya hii. Muponyeshe, hii pande isikana na hii pande. System yake yote ya mwili irudi vile nataka kuwa.
Hebu niondoke. Mimi shika njia uende zako.
Abantu ba Mintombo ya More.
Your favorite Ekegusi station, Minto FM, is now at your doorstep. Enjoy the hottest Kisi music, informative and entertaining shows, and reliable news only on Minto FM. Tune in to Minto FM on 91.7 FM in Nyamira, Kisii, and its environs.
Minto FM,
No, I don't think you're ready for that one yet.
What happened to not hogging the ball?
Yes, you could hog. I just think you're not ready yet.
Aki baba mwani nikikupata huku. Nikikupata huku wewe, yani unibia mbao yangu, ukamkukunywa. Hiki kibaba ni kiera gani? Hiki kibaba ni... Wacha nikushike wewe.
Abuda, kuna noma nini?
Labda tuambie.
Si ara tuna noma. Ara nikujitoa tuko najitoa.
So you said you're showing me evidence. I want to see it for myself. Plus the little boys, kwani what are they going to do? Ziggy! Ziggy, please! Can you please stop? Please say yes! Someone help us! Ziggy!
Biggest odds in the world every day on selected matches. Make a decision. Mozart Bet.
A very good evening to you. Welcome back to Sunday Express. Let's now delve into sports matters. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, Egypt's Shakia hockey men's team was crowned the winners of the 2023 Mozart Bet Africa Cup of Club Championship after Ghana Exchequers were beaten 4-2 in the finals match played at the Sheikh Union right here in Nairobi. Kenya's Butali Warriors finished second after defeating Nigeria Police 3-2 in the third playoff match. Butali is the only Kenya's men team that managed a podium finish at the continental event after Kenya Police and Western Jaguars failed to make it past the group stage.
Butali Sugar Warriors are the 2023 Mozart Bet Africa Cup for Club Champions, second runners-up after edging out Nigeria Police Hockey Club 3-2 in the third place playoff match. The Warriors took an early lead through Ranaso Hile's successful corner conversion in the 8th minute of play. However, Sandy Godwin equalized the score for Nigeria Police through a field goal as the team ended their goal tally after halftime after converting their short corner and taking the lead with 2-1. However, Butali Warriors came back strong in the second half, netting 2 goals in the 53rd minute through Calvin Kanu's corners conversion and Festus Onyango's field goal in the 55th minute, giving them a 3-2 win at full time.
We had planned to play for the final, and as I said yesterday, we leave it in the hands of God. Yeah, but I'm so proud we took up bronze. At least we have something.
The tournament has been long, tough teams, all opponents have been good. When it comes to such a stage, you don't have much to say. The boys know what they need to do, and guys just dug deep, and you could see in the last quarter, we had to fight for it, and we did it.
In the ladies' competition, Kenyan teams performed dismally after finishing the event outside the medal bracket. Kisumu Lakers ladies ended their match with a goalless draw against Nigeria Delta Queens, while compatriots Strathmore University Scorpions ended their run in the tournament with a 3-0 loss to Ghana Revenue Authority. Blazers women lost 3-2 to Ghana Army in their last match of the tournament. Nora Mwangi for Sunday Express.
Thank you, Nora, for that report. Moving on, Kenya's Charles Kipkirui and Irene Kimais were crowned the 2023 Barcelona Half Marathon champions after the two won their respective 21-kilometer races in Spain. Another Kenyan, Jacqueline Chalal and Gadisa Barnu of Ethiopia, won the Sevilla full marathons also held today.
Charles Kipkurui and Irene Kimais set new course records on their way to winning their respective Barcelona half marathons. Kipkurui clocked 58 minutes and 53 seconds to win the men's 21-kilometer race, ahead of Birhanu Legese, who was second in 58 minutes and 59 seconds, as Solomon Kirayego finished third in 59 minutes and 29 seconds. Irene Kimais was the fastest woman in the half marathon in Spain, clocking 1 hour 4 minutes and 37 seconds, beating compatriot Jocelyn Jepkosgei, who settled for second position 9 seconds behind, while Catherine Relin finished in the bronze position in 1 hour 5 minutes and 39 seconds, just ahead of Genzebe Dibaba. Jacqueline Chelal at the same time dominated and won the Sevilla Marathon in 2 hours 20 minutes and 29 seconds, beating the two Ethiopians who had targeted a 1-2 finish by more than a minute. Ethiopia's Aberu Ayana settled for second position in 2 hours 21 minutes and 54 seconds, as compatriot Diro Soboka finished third in 2 hours 23 minutes and 5 seconds. The men's 42-kilometer race was won by Gadisa Birhanu, who led a 1-2-3 finish for the Ethiopians. Birhanu crossed the finish line ahead of the rest in 2 hours 4 minutes and 59 seconds, beating compatriot Tulu Wami by 19 seconds. Ayenu Gebre, also of Ethiopia, was third in 2 hours 5 minutes and 23 seconds.
Thank you, Barkley, for that report. Now, finally, Kenya Premier League side AFC Leopards have moved to within 2 points of fourth position in the table standings after they were held to a barren draw by Kariobangi Sharks at the Nyayo National Stadium. Despite the draw, the Leopards have increased their unbeaten run to 8 matches. On the other hand, Kariobangi Sharks are 13th on 17 points. At Buhungu Stadium, KCB has leapfrogged Nzoia Sugar to second position after beating Vihiga Bullets 3-0. In other matches of the day, Bidco United defeated Sofapaka 2-0. And those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. The bulletin is not yet over, as my colleague Regina Manyara will be back right after this short break with an amazing interview. Don't change that dial.
Biggest odds in the world every day on selected matches. Make a decision. Mozart Bet.
Now, in 2018, domiciled under the Ministry of Education, girls in public schools, secondaries were to get free sanitary towels, even like pads, at a cost of 470 million, approximately 10 million per county. But several years down the line, this program is facing headwinds. Tonight, we're going to be talking about menstrual health with a focus of ending stigma and moving the conversation from gender-driven to societal moves. Joining us tonight is none other than nominated Senator for Women Affairs, that is Senator Gloria Oroba. Karibu sana. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's break the ice. The conversation is what you were wearing on Tuesday when the Senate resumed its sittings. That was quite unconventional, and it has drawn a lot of headwinds and a lot of debate. Was it necessary?
Is it necessary to have periods? Because that's the question. It's not about what I was wearing, it's about what happened. Yeah. I stained my pants. I had a suit on. And I didn't think that it was good enough a reason for me to miss out on the opening of the Senate, because that was the first day. I had a lot of things that I wanted to push. I wanted to be there. It's my first time being in the Senate, so some of these things are my first time experiencing. So I thought I'm not going to miss that session for nothing. So there was just no time to go back home and change. Yeah.
And now that brings a question of stigma when it comes to menstrual health. Just as I pointed out that this particular program, and I'm borrowing heavily from what we're expecting to see next week, where you've actually sponsored a motion where to have the provision of free sanitary towels and to end what you term as period poverty, you know, the shadow pandemic that we do not talk about. Now, this is not a new program. Looking back at 2017-2018, so why now?
Actually, the first bold step that the Kenyan government took was in 2011 when they introduced now the program of provision of sanitary towels.
Yes.
That was in 2011. They spent around 420 million just distributing. It was a first good step. And then we had a setback with the 12th Parliament, because the 12th Parliament actually reduced the budget by half, from 470 million to 260 million. And you know, already from 2011, when we were trying to address the issue, the 420 million was not sufficient. It was a starting point. And of course, the intention or the expectation was that the budget will keep increasing to a point where all schools were actually accessing the free sanitary towels. But you know, a lot happened, and the issue of period poverty was actually not taken seriously, or maybe there was not, I will say, political goodwill. So you can see that we have actually regressed in terms of the developments that we should have been having now. From 2011 to 2023, surely we should be at the point where we are saying that we are almost getting to all the national schools having that access to the sanitary towel.
Now, this motion that you are sponsoring come next week, how then will it now put this into perspective and become more effective?
The motion actually addresses two things. The issue of how to legislate the program, because currently the program is running on a sort of amendment act that is embedded in the Education Act. That's not really, you can enforce it, but it's a lot of the details are actually dependent on the political goodwill. For instance, budget allocation is not stipulated. It's not a percentage of a ministry budget. It's not a, you know, it just depends on which government of the day. So it means if we have a government that is patriarchal, that does not really care about this issue of period poverty, they might even say we are just going to allocate 50 million, and what, you know, it's really dependent on who's in office. So I'm trying to find a way to legislate that so that it doesn't matter who's in office, but in terms of budget allocations, at least to some extent, or in terms of a financial provision to some extent to which we can try and legislate, we can see that through. The second thing is the whole end-to-end of the program needs to be streamlined so that we don't have loopholes where people are taking advantage of the program. For instance, the procurement regulations around it is a big thing, because, you know, first of all, Kenya was the first African country that took out the taxes on pads, but that means only the final product. So when you import the pads, then you don't pay the import duty and stuff on the final product. But when you look at the local manufacturers, they don't import the final product, they import the materials, and the raw materials are still highly taxed. So we need to find a way where we can address that, so that, you know, the period poverty starts from the point of poverty in itself. It means that people don't have the capital, the money to buy, to purchase these items. Why don't they have the money? They are not employed, they don't have businesses. So the local manufacturers actually play a key role in terms of even participating in ending period poverty. How? When you have the companies, the local manufacturers actually getting some of these tenders, then it spurs the creation of casual jobs for quite a while. And that is a source of income for many of parents who are actually now using the same money to purchase their sanitary towels. So we need to regulate on issues on how to ensure that that industry thrives. That's one thing. The other thing is we must also specify the frequency at which government provides. Currently, government provides once a year. There's a provision of once a year, so you get your batch, and from the research that I've done, the students get between 5 to 7 packets, those that have received between 5 to 7 packets for the year. Now you have your period every month, you know, every month you're using a minimum of 2 packets. If you do the math, we are barely getting to the point where we are saying that we are giving access to that. So I'm also trying to see how is it that we can legislate around that. And then finally, it's also the issue of the whole period poverty and period stigma, period shaming. What happened to me in Parliament was, it was saddening. And you see, people were saying, yeah, but you need to have figured out your days and what days. A lot of, I would say, ignorance around menstruation, because basic things like understanding that not every woman has a regular period clearly came out as a concern, that, you know, the community at large doesn't really understand the menstruation issue. But not only that, it's the idea of it's okay to be kicked out of your workplace because you have had an accident that has stained, because people see that as shameful and dirty, and so you cannot be subjecting people to that. That is the same stigma and the shame that, you know, when our students who accidentally stain their clothes are kicked out. So we have to be able to also legislate that to an extent that it is not a point of authority that the child feels like I can't go to school because in the events that I stain, I'll be punished, I'll be shamed, and this. So
basically having conversation that matters of menstrual health are not by choice. Actually, this is nature. So we talk about them. Though when you talk about menstrual hygiene, it also falls under the reproductive health conversation, which are termed as taboo. Yet we need to have these conversations. Now, let me take you back to a statement that you made. Is like a patriarchal society. You mentioned that. But we want to drive this conversation of menstrual health and bring in and rope in the men. How do we move it from a gender issue to a societal issue, from where you sit?
You know, the thing is, however way we look at it, it's a gender issue. And that's why even part of my motion wants to embed whatever regulations within the Ministry of Gender. But the bigger problem is within the community. For instance, when I go to distribute pads now that all of this has happened, I am going with my 15-year-old son. And he's having, with the permission, of course, of the engagement, we have to ensure that it's a safe space, because still girls are feeling like it's not a safe space. It's something we must discuss in secret. But, you know, with the few schools that I've gone to and I've tried to say, okay, once we are done with the conversation, can you allow me to have my son come in? He would like to have a word or two. It starts from there. It starts from that generation. Because if the boys also understand that this is a normal thing, and they become part of the conversation, and they become part of the support system that we put around our girls during this, I would say, very confusing and difficult times of puberty, when they're going through the whole menstruation thing. Then we remove the issue of shame. We remove the issue of stigma. In fact, to an extent that perhaps in another 10, 20 years, if something like that happens to a senator in the Senate, you know, the speaker would not even want to engage with that conversation. You know, the speaker would probably say it becomes a non-issue.
It becomes just
news.
Something that we had not talked about. But before we get there, we've talked about the issue that government cannot go alone. There's the issue of goodwill, the government's of the day. But then the issue is there room, is there provision to have, you know, the private sector also get onto the bandwagon to ensure that we actually deal with this issue once and for all?
In fact, one of my key focus areas has been, and this is not just now when it's come to the limelight, like for the last up to 10 years, has been engaging the civil society in terms of advocacy, because they do a lot of advocacy, they do a lot of sensitization, how to engage the civil society to talk to, you know, our young girls and how to deal with menstruation issues. Engaging the corporates, you know, to participate in ways of CSR, because even if we get to a point where this Kenya's economy is able to sustain itself and even provide that kind of money from its own source to give all, it's very expensive. It's not a cheap affair. So it would be good to have a lot of PPPs between government and the corporate private sector, so that they can come on board and say, okay, this is what we want to give back. This is how we want to ensure, for instance, you know, education, our kids are actually not having issues in school. So it's a conversation that has to start from somewhere. And I'm just glad that, first of all, we've normalized having this conversation. Like the other day in Senate, now the day after, I had my male colleagues, they were like, hey, how are you? Are you okay today? I'm like, yeah, today the cramps are a bit low, but I'm good.
You're fine. So it has not become it's not taboo.
It's not taboo.
It's a conversation we are having.
Absolutely.
Now, as we wind down to this conversation, in your opinion, which arm of or department in government should actually run point in this. We have the Ministry of Education targeting, the schools. They have the networks. We also have now the Office of the Women Rep, which also wants to be part and parcel of this program. Then we have the Department of Gender. It feels as if we have so many players, each pulling. We are walking in one direction, but we are.
So first of all, I think Parliament should stay out of wanting to run programs. We play oversight. So the Women Rep position, they know better than to ask to be the drivers. They should play oversight to ensure that whoever is implementing this particular program actually implements as it should be. I have had a conversation with our Minister of Gender, Waziri Aisha Jumwa, and the good news is she's actually assured me that it's a conversation they've been having, and we talked about it, and they've pushed the budget up to 410 million up to June, and then she's assured me that between 2023-2024, the proposed budget actually allocates 1 billion for this particular program of provision of free sanitary towels. Now, I think because this is a gender issue, I think that it should be embedded in the Ministry of Gender. And thankfully, our president thinks the same, and he has actually given a presidential directive that, in fact, this will be the final financial year where the Ministry of Education will be conducting procurement of sanitary towels. The president actually understands what we are trying to do, because we had the Women's Charter, and this was some of the things that we promised Kenyans. So we are trying to implement it. So he has already given a direction that it is dealt with at the gender level, but in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, because the distribution of the same will be done within the school system. And really, how government should be is government should look at ways to synergize between the different departments. So this is a clear case of that. But for purposes of ensuring that we do not end up with another KEMSA, yes, we need the lead Ministry of Gender to lead point in this. Yes, absolutely.
Now, parting shot as we talk about, demystifying and, moving away from taboo conversations when we talk about menstrual health, men shy away. But now we've said the direction we should take is that also have our boys, our young men in this conversation. Parting shot.
My parting shot, especially to girls, and I've been giving this talk for so many years. I always tell them that every month when you have your period, you have actually been given the power by God to bring forth life. So it should be something that you celebrate. It should be something that you're like, oh, I'm on my period. Yes. That's a reminder that I can actually bring forth life. And so it turns it from the stigma that, that is there. It's something to celebrate. And for the wider society, I think it's this way. I know there are things we don't want to be subjected to visually. And the problem is when we have not subjected the society with a real picture on the ground, then they just assume that there is no problem. But there is a shadow pandemic. It is period poverty. It is period stigma. And it is time that we start dealing with it intentionally. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa. Thank you.
Now let's rope in the gentleman on the team this evening. Kioria, what do you say in regard to having the men also join the conversation when you're tackling the issue of menstrual health?
No, I agree completely. I saw the reaction from her male colleagues on the floor, and a bit I thought there was an overreaction. But then again, the rules of a senator are rules of a senate, so probably that's how it goes. Probably my question for you, Senator, would have been because you have agreed with the president that the whole concept and the supply of sanitary pads be now under the Ministry of Gender. Kindly tell us, what problem did you have with it being domiciled under the Ministry of Education? Because it has infrastructure, it has the structures.
Yeah.
What problem did you have?
Two major things was that, one, for instance, there was a disconnect between what was happening on the ground and the distribution of the. For instance, who decides which schools get the free sanitary towels, and based on what? You understand? So from that perspective, you get enough insight from the Ministry of Gender to tell you, because they're dealing with it as a title in its own, to tell you that in these areas, period poverty is, extreme. And so we should focus on that's one thing. And the second thing is that while the Ministry of Education is actually the distributing, let's say, framework, I think when it comes to matters gender, and because you could see how even in the Senate, it was so misunderstood. I think we should leave it to the gender experts
to carry the day. Ministry of Education will argue that they have the schools and the numbers, but this is something we're going to be keenly focusing on, given that it's Birmingham for hearing next week, Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Time for us to put a cap on Sunday Express. Thanks very much for joining us. And of course, great thanks to you, Senator Gloria, for joining us this evening. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Lensa Odingo has been a sign language interpreter. Have yourself a fantastic week ahead.
I'm Regina Manyara. Have a great week ahead.
Absolutely.
Kupata kumpenda mtu kama sikiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *812 *501#.
Mapenzi si kumpenda mtu kwa kuwa amekamilika, kwani nawe pia una mapungufu yako. Kwa hivyo mapenzi ni kumpenda mtu na mapungufu yake.
Kupata kumpenda mtu, bonyeza *812 *501#. *812 *501#.
No. I don't think you're ready for that one yet.
What happened to not hogging the ball?
Yes, you could hog. I just think you're not ready yet.
Aki baba mwani nikikupata huku wewe, yani unibia mbao yangu, ukamkukunywa. Hiki kibaba ni kiera gani? Hiki kibaba wacha nikushike wewe.
Abuda, kuna noma nini?
Labda tuambie.
Si raha tuna noma. Arani kujitoa tuko najitoa.
So you said you're showing me evidence. I want to see it for myself. Plus the little boys, kwani what are they going to do? Ziggy, please, can you please stop? Please say yes, someone help us. Ziggy.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
Shinda napitia
kwa watoto wangu. Naona huyu vile amekaa. Niko na shida. Nampeleka hospitali. Nikakosa pesa.
kuna dawa hata nimeandikiwa hapo, sijanunua juu ya pesa. Alafu unajua mimi hata kulala silali, siendi mahali. Sasa ile sina, nasikia uchungu. Nasikia uchungu juu ya